Good everyone. I hope you guys have an amazing day. So in the last episode, I explained to you guys how you can use the wire decorator to get the data from the Salesforce. So which is great. I mean, it was a simple example, right? Just to retrieve contact, first name, last name, and email using a record ID, which is pretty simple. Now, I wanted to show you how to write the same code using Apex controller. Now, the reason why I wanted to show you is that you might see this kind of code written in production. So, I mean, if it's simple, you can refactor it to use the wide, but if it's too complicated, then, it might take some time. So I thought it's better for me to show you a different way to retrieve the data. Like I said, right, if you're using Apex controller, it will not respect field level security like we do with wire decorator. And another thing is that, like I said, the wire decorator is compatible with the future version of the Salesforce API release. I'm not saying that your Apex controller will break with the new versions, but it might happen that Salesforce might decides to deprecate a function or a method, existing method for whatever reason, right? And so if that happens, then it might break the change. So that's kind of thing won't happen when you're using wired uh, adapter. Sorry, wired decorator. So in this case, what I'm doing is that I'm using this Apex controller. So this is how you call an Apex controller in LWC. So which is import. So let me show you the name of controller. This is the contact controller, which is pretty simple, nothing fancy here. So I've used the cacheable true, and so what I'm doing is that this is the name of the this is a method name, right? And which pretty much retrieves the first name, last name, and email from a contact based on ID. So when it comes to LWC, right? So how you import this specific method, you're saying, hey, give me this contact details, which is this method, and then I wanted to use it here, okay? And if you have another method, you can use, another line. Say we say get account and contact, you can say import get account contact from. You can do that, right? So, and I'm using this method in an async in a connected callback. So connected callback is called when your component get inserted into the DOM, right? So it's an asynchronous process. So remember that, right? It's not a synchronous process in this case because if you wanted to retrieve it, so uh, and another thing is that it can have impact on the performance. So I personally don't use this approach unless I really have to. Like for instance, right? I wanted to do a wanted to build an LWC which acts as a subscriber to subscribe to a platform, and then I used to connect a callback to do some stuff in the past. I've done that stuff before. I'll show you how you can do that using platform, and it's exciting, right? Okay, now it's pretty simple. I'm actually doing an await because obviously you're using async, so you have to use await. So like I said, if you're not sure what async and await is, just go and read the JavaScript documentation. It talks about it, right? Or um, okay, it doesn't give any intelligence about or help documentation here. But this is pretty much like if you wanted to do an asynchronous operation, you use the syntax. Like even the C# has the similar syntax. Okay, so I'm getting contact details and passing a record ID, and I'm just getting a result here. Yeah. So this is the record ID. So you must be thinking, what is it and what is this, right? This record ID will point to this, and this record ID is the name of this, yeah, the parent name. So I'm just, mapping it to this thingy here. And once you get the result, you actually passing this the first name, last name here, and then you just, just logging it to see the email there and the contact. And yeah, it's pretty much the similar code. The only thing is that I've used Apex controller because I wanted to show you guys the two side of the equation, right? One way using wire, one way using the Apex controller. So yeah, and it's important, like I said, for you guys to know different ways to do the stuff. Okay, so that's great. Now, what I'm going to do in the next episode, I'm going to show you how to write a jest code for LWC, because obviously, if you see that, right, when I create this component, we have this test here, component.test. So you got some kind of dummy code here. So describe and the stuff. So I'm gonna show you in the next episode how you can do that. In my personal opinion, I believe that you should be doing your test cases in LWC. So because it helps you to debug your application. Sorry, it helps you to do a unit test. For instance, right, you might want to add extra functionality to an existing LWC. So what might happen, right? You might decides to change an existing method, and that might break some other functionality. So if you have this in place, right, it's like an Apex have an existing unit test where Salesforce made it mandatory. uh, Before you push an Apex code to production, you need to have a unit test associated with it. Unfortunately, for LWC, you don't have to write the test cases, but in my personal opinion, you should, because it's a good practice to keep your org tidier and cleaner. And at the same time, it will help you to identify bugs in advance before you push a change to your UAT or to your production org, right? So that's all I wanted to cover in this episode. I hope you guys have an amazing Sunday. Adios.